fell out of the chair.
I did too.
What?
I did too, 2 weeks ago, I got one.
Why was it so important? Was it because you're
Eric
filming?
Wilder too.
Oh, it's
So-
really? Jeez.
No, she was calling me about the June meeting about beforehand, you know, the leave thing.
Yeah.
So she called me about that.
Adrian, why is there no screen?
She called me.
Oh, got it.
She won't talk to me.
That's the worst one.
No, no,
Like, there's no, I don't think it was open.
well, that's what I mean. That's
So you
the
can see what
Yeah.
options are open.
Well, that's the point. It would make it much easier. I mean, this explains it, but it would,
Even Map My Run, which we use.
yeah. But then it just, I don't know why Bonnie is on there, and that's why Michelle tore it apart.
I'm like, I don't know,
Oh, yes. And then it goes into the ski jumps. I mean.
Well, the time is 5:30.
I'd
I'd like to open this town board meeting and please rise for the pledge of the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Welcome, guests. I'd like to welcome Diane Fox, Superintendent of Saranac Lake Central School District, to our table, and we'll explain what you're gonna give us.
You got it.
Fewer numbers, I'm guessing.
So I'm
Hello,
here.
Maria.
Davina, would you like copy number 6?
No, I have
would. But I want you to work Davina
We're-
on this.
Oh, she did.
Nice to meet
Did it
you.
go okay?
You have a copy too, Diana? There you go.
You do
Okay.
have a copy.
But that's okay, she's got another.
That's okay.
I'm here tonight with Nancy Bernstein, who's a member of our Board of Education, and Amy
Oh,
Spicer
good.
lives here in Lake Placid, but we're very lucky that she works for us as the middle school principal.
She miss her though, if possible.
I'm sure you do, because we are very lucky to have her. So I'm the superintendent in Saranac Lake. And thank you for giving us some time at your meeting. I'm usually around the table. We were just talking about how nice it was to actually be out here in the audience and not around the table when we saw that your meeting runs till 8. So I'm gonna try to be respectful of your time.
Already.
So we've been looking at our enrollment declining. And we've been looking at our buildings, and the Board of Education last spring contracted with Alliance Education to come in and do a building enrollment feasibility study. And the first part of the study, which is looking at the demographics of the community and looking at the elementary part of the school, was completed a couple months ago. The high school, really great. I'm gonna have to ask her about that at some point.
Reminder to us all.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you for letting me go.
Thank you for being the one. So the 6th through 12th is not done yet, but when the board reviewed the information that was in the summary they felt that it was really important that we share that information with all of the villages and towns that are in our school district. And I know we're here in North Elba and we can look across at the Lake Placid School, but I actually live in the North Elba town section of Saranac Lake. So you do come into our area and we have people who live there. So thank you for your time this evening. I've given you a bit of a snapshot of all the things that I just heard somebody discussing a beverage after the meeting. And so I hope when you go home and you have your beverage of choice that you take some time to look through the data that we've given you. And we would love to come back. One of the things about the district is we have a lot of data on a lot of things. So if there's anything that you were working on, had questions about, we would love to be invited back. So I'm just going to walk you through the packet tonight so you know what you have in front of you. The first thing is the excerpts of the feasibility study, the area population projections, and the school enrollment projections. The second thing that's in front of you, it just so happened as we were discussing this, Adirondack Explorer did a article on aging facilities, shrinking numbers. Adirondack schools face double bind. This was really about Boquet Valley, and they're trying to build a new school. But really what they talk about, all of us are facing. It was a really good article and very timely for what we were doing here in Saranac Lake. And the other two things that you have are an ALICE report. ALICE is done by the United Way. They've been doing it for many years. ALICE stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained, and Employed. So there's different levels of households in our community. There are families who receive direct services. They might receive help with food. They might receive help with heating, that type of thing. And then there are your families who are going on vacation. They can afford to go away, drive a nicer car. But in between those families are really our ALICE families is what they call them. They're families that are working. But they're one crisis away from having a financial crisis. So they think they've got it all planned out. I actually just took my car this spring to get new summer tires. And great news, they told me I needed both front brakes and rear brakes. And so we swallowed and put new brakes on my car. For an Alice family, that would break that family down, and they're kind of hidden because they don't receive a lot of services. And they look like they're working, and they are working, but that does not mean that they are financially solvent and healthy. And it's got a lot of information for both counties about how much you really have to make per hour based on your family type and size in order to be above the Alice threshold. And I share all that because my request of all of the areas that we've been to is really the opportunity to be a part of the conversation. We see it in our district as a three-legged stool in that we have a need for jobs that pay well enough that you live above the Alice threshold, need for daycare. In Saranac Lake area, it's very difficult to find daycare for your kids, and housing. And housing, we know new housing is up to $400 a square foot. Rehabilitating housing is very difficult. Finding a house as a new person wanting to come in, making a young person wage is almost impossible. And there are a lot of people in towns and villages all over the North Country that are working on that in their groups. And I would just encourage a larger conversation around that. I think there's a whole group working with the Child Care Council on childcare. There's a whole group in Saranac Lake. I'm assuming it's also in Lake Placid working on housing. You know, there's a group, Roost is working, other groups are working on actually working on jobs and professional jobs moving into the area. And I think it would be very valuable to put all those groups together around the table and have a conversation, because each is doing good work, but good work independently. And sometimes when you're around the table, you learn things that you don't know and are valuable as you move forward. So that's my spiel for tonight. We're happy to take questions. I also want to be respectful of your 8 o'clock hard stop, so.
No, I wish it.
That's a very coy way.
But anyway, would you like a chance to respond to childcare and housing? Because I'm proud of what we do in this community. I mean, let Diane know, about our latest survey, and you're wickedly involved in our housing efforts, so.
Yeah.
We have a very progressive movement toward both of those. Yeah,
Yeah, so we recently, and I don't know if you came across it anywhere, but we did
I
have
saw your
the
survey.
other child care
Yes.
survey. And so we have the data back from that, and the data basically says what we already knew, but sometimes it's important to have the data in order to know what you already knew. And so we actually just had a meeting today, and moving forward, that information we brought to the town and village boards, so that's the level it's at. So it was at a committee, volunteer committee, now that information we brought to the town and village boards to say, how do we want to move this forward? But one of the things that we talked about today was mostly about getting this information to existing childcare providers and say, hey, look, there is more of a demand. If you can facilitate more spaces, there is a demand for, especially that birth to 3.
Mhm.
It seems that, like, especially in Lake Placid, and I know Saranac Lake is a different story altogether with universal pre-K-4, because you only have one universal pre-K-4 provider. I was trying to look at Amy, but I can't.
We actually have 2 at the moment.
Okay, so
Well,
you're up to one.
three, because we're actually also in-house this year, just because our numbers were so high
Okay.
that we actually did a 3rd, but next year we'll be back to 2.
And when I have a question, so does that satisfy all your demand? For
Correct.
Okay, so every kid who wants to be in UPK4 can be.
Correct.
Because when we had a conversation recently, do you remember, it was much more of a dire situation that was expressed to us. So I'm glad that that's been rectified
Yes.
and that every student wants to be. So in Lake Placid, St. Agnes serves that niche. And so we don't really think there's a demand for childcare at that 4-year-old level.
Yes.
Because parents want their kids to be enrolled in pre-K4.
But that's only half day, right?
Yeah, so you.
So that's
probably
the challenge of the second component of the
Yeah.
working families.
So most people keep them at St. Agnes or
Yes.
bus them back to their daycare providers.
Is this the same opportunity in Saranac Lake?
So, you've hit on a sore spot for Saranac Lake, and that we were one of the first districts to ever take on UPK in 1987. And we have received the same allocation
Oh.
every year since 1987, $137,000. So 20 years later, Lake Placid applied to be a universal pre-K and received, I don't know what, $500,000 a year. 300 some odd thousand
You're
dollars.
welcome for me bringing it up.
So great news, Nancy doesn't even know this yet. The great news is we're always looking for grants and we applied for the expansion grant. So what that means is that if you take a child from Saranac Lake, so Kids R Us has our children. So at most for a full five-hour program, she makes $5,700 a year per child. Here at St. Agnes, it's up to $10,000 for the same program, for the same time, for the same type of child. So it's hard to run a program. We know how expensive it is for childcare. However, we applied for the expansion grant and it just arrived that we actually did get the expansion grant. So
That's good.
we now are the same as you. So we're very excited about that, but it's only taken us how many years to get there? So it's been a real disparity in New York State, how that UPK money has been allocated. So
And so
they're looking at it.
Kids R Us and somewhere at Petrova or
It will be Kids R Us and St. Bernard's.
in St. Bernard's. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I got sidetracked about where we were chatting.
Yeah.
Oh, so we think that the need and the survey, to a certain extent, demonstrates that the need is for birth to 3.
Absolutely.
And so we're gonna take that information and run with it, I guess.
Well, we're gonna drop it in the development committee's hands.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and we have some little feelers out there right now. Our original thought was, let's partner with an existing organization that maybe is even struggling because they're losing all their 4-year-olds to St. Agnes. And so we've reached out to some of those providers. We haven't really gotten any good bites back. But I think there's opportunities out there without having to recreate, to bring on a whole brand new organization for childcare.
Mhm.
And especially because that's the easiest path forward. In an ideal world, I think, I don't know if Derek agrees with this, but I see a brand new facility.
We can argue tomorrow.
Like, a brand new facility somewhere that's more than just
Yeah.
birth to 3, it's a community center, it
Yeah.
has senior meals and it's all inclusive, but that's maybe somewhere down the road. But that's where our child.
With social services and.
Yeah.
And everything.
Everything.
That
The
goes
other,
with it.
the other thing we really wanted to be able to educate people on too is that the availability of the childcare assistance funds that come through the county. Because in our survey, 97% of people said they had never heard of those funds before. And we do know that those funds fluctuate, like they're not always there.
Correct.
But just making sure that people know that they're available.
To look for
So
them.
there's also an
Mhm.
educational component of what we're
True.
trying to do here. And then an educational component for employers, because another question was, how often have you missed work because of a childcare issue? That didn't have anything to do with your child being sick. And that number is like in the 70% or something,
Right.
so like for employers should also care about this, that that there can be unreliable daycare. And another statistic was around 50% of the respondents said that if there was a childcare center, they would send their childcare. They were making do with what they had now, but they were making do, and it wasn't the perfect situation. So I think all those things will help inform, or I hope will spark someone being creative and trying to take on a new program. For housing, I get lost in housing.
Well, really,
live
just
in
that,
it,
that we're
yeah.
forward, of course, McKinsey Overlook,
Mhm.
represents the
Yeah.
lower income aspect. Fawn Valley represents that
Mhm.
gap that are working and need something affordable. And you're even moving forward on a new 26 home?
22 home was the next project.
Yeah,
And we do have 1-year teachers in our houses.
It's very exciting. One.
Just- We only have 6 of them so far. And we even said, we did think about coming over to Lake Placid, she said, I really like teaching outside of the district that I live in.
And I'm the
And she-
opposite. I love teaching inside of this.
Yeah.
And she also loves her job there.
Okay, good.
Yeah. She's not going anywhere.
yes, in Essex County, we have a land bank now
Yes.
where we can acquire properties that can be set up for new homes, so that's exciting and you wanna talk about Pride and Adirondack Roots at all?
I mean, I'm not gonna talk about pride, that's out of my wheelhouse.
Okay, it's your sister.
Yeah, it's my stepsister. Adirondack Roots recently, which is formerly known as the Housing Assistance Program of Essex County, what recently received smart growth funding to do pre-development funds for organizations that are towns and organizations that are trying to get larger development projects off the ground. And so it's not a huge fund, I think it's $336,000, but at least it's some money that's set up for like, you know, I field a lot of phone calls with people saying, how'd you do Fond Valley, or how'd you do this? And I say, okay, well, you need some engineering done, or you need a survey done, they say, we don't have any money, and so the smart growth grant is
Is that seed
intended
money?
for that, you know, to be able to start those like preliminary things that, you know, you can't really ask a funder for because you haven't proven yourself. Or if you're a town, you don't have the money for that, and so, and actually Northern Forest Center got smart growth money for that, and Adirondack Roots in partnership with Lake Champlain, Lake George Regional Planning Board, which needs a new name. So there's like over $500,000 for pre-development costs through smart growth grants that's available now there.
Now, could you just do some of that in the Saranac Lake District area?
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason Adirondack Roots or
Actually, we have-
Northern Forest is in Tupper Lake with
Yeah.
rental units.
Well, we have one lot on over near NBT Bank that we're went through foreclosure that we plan to do something with.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah, let's see, what else was I gonna bring up from the school perspective? Even with declining numbers, like we see in Lake Placid as well. One of the, and Jason, you can jump in, cause you'll know figures better than I, but I believe we have 23 or 28. We'll say immigrant students that have come here, and I have to assume documented because they wouldn't be here otherwise. But it has put a strain on the school for language,
Correct,
yeah.
correct.
Are you evidence any of that?
No,
Really?
really? Yeah.
Oh, it's- it
You
was-
feel better now?
Plattsburgh was
Yeah.
experiencing it.
Yeah,
Okay.
we all carry our own bucket with
Yeah.
our own issues that are in it, but some of them are universal.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's very odd because we do not, but again, let's talk about housing, right? Like you have done some things for housing where come to
Sure.
Saranac Lake, housing is not available,
right,
yes.
70 units are
I
framed,
know, I know,
yeah,
so,
no.
all right.
Your early part of the presentation, you said you'd like to come back. You are welcome here anytime you wanna come. All you
Thank you
got,
very much.
they can track me down in that corner back there. I'll put you on any agenda you wanna be on.
Oh, we'll try to come when we have something that we think is pertinent
Yeah.
for the board.
Uh,
But
Are you worried about anything down the road? I noticed birth rates and things like that. We all recognize like a gradual decline. The graphs suggest that it continues. Isn't there a leveling out?
continues until about, according to the data. and
30
we'll-
something?
And yes, about 10 years or so,
Okay,
yes. So I'll be back in 10 years and I'll let you know if that was actually accurate or not, but that is,
and is that a regional trend?
That's right.
So-
yes,
Okay,
yes.
But the declining population would be a challenge, but it doesn't seem to be the immediate challenge, it's the living in poverty component of it.
There's so many different layers to it, yes, without affordable, we have so many, if you take a look. We just have a large population of Alice families, and there is a misperception in Saranac Lake that it's less expensive to live in the North Country. And it's not less expensive to live in the North Country in any way, shape or form, especially for housing. And so we have kind of a disconnect to what, you know, how you did your survey to say, your survey told you already what you knew, but now you have the documentation. That's sort of where we are with, we know how expensive it is. Alice is the documentation that says we're not making this up. It really is expensive to live up here.
There was a time when you look at Saranac Lake, oh, that would be the place to go, but
Correct.
many people have communicated, these are Lake Placid prices.
You know where the.
While Lake Placid is all.
Yeah. So
That's numbers the next.
I live in the townhouses behind CASA.
Cranberry?
Yes.
Yeah, I live in Cranberry Meadows, and so I'm always watching your townhouses down here, and there's one, you know, they used to be in the 500, 600, I bought mine for not much, it was a gift when we, only because finding houses even 11 years ago ago when I moved in was very difficult and they weren't sure they wanted to sell it. Would I rent it for a year? I had no place to go. I said, yes, thank you very much. And then they decided to sell it. So I feel I lucked into a beautiful place to live. But I'm always watching how much these townhouses are because for 12 minutes away, I'd sell you my townhouse for Yes, yes, it's not inexpensive anymore and no more fixer-uppers that are handyman fixer-uppers. Our fixer-uppers are significant work,
Sure,
yeah,
no,
so.
what else? What did we forget to cover?
Right,
We'll wait for round two then.
we'll see what round two and we'll share that when it comes out too. That's more internal as to what our buildings can hold, what it would look like.
Okay,
Our buildings were built just like yours, you know, a long time ago, and new things have come along. We now have a computer lab, an expanded library, you know, there's just,
listen, this
used
building
a
is
little
so old,
differently.
we replaced bricks
yeah,
on that side last year. This year, we're tearing all these window frames out, then the steel is rusting away.
correct. So,
So we know all about that part too.
yeah, so that's more of just a figures piece as to how we could configure within the district, that 712 component, so.
Good.
All right, thank you very much. I'd
Thank
love
you.
to stay, but it's the inaugural race for our steeplechase on our track, and I was invited to the race,
Wow,
so
well, that is exciting,
well,
yeah.
Well,
I
it
guess
will be
it
more
is.
exciting than the rest of it.
it seemed like a great group to work with, so thank you so much for so much of your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You too.
Sorry, everyone.
We're a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right,
Kathy got on, did she text you? She texted me that she didn't have the right passcode, and I said, "Can you-"
They did an Archer is what I.
but I just saw her on.
Yeah, she was.
Greg didn't make it here, did he? I wonder if Greg's assuming we're all okay with the roof,
I don't think so. I think we're gonna talk about it.
yeah,
When he gets the notification that we didn't approve his roof, he'll be here.
yeah,
Let me text him.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll text
okay,
It's probably. Mike's.
yeah.
him. That's a meeting.
Well, rain day,
Oh,
All right, I'm assuming you all
So
get a
it's not-
chance to read the minutes from the April 9th meeting. I'll take a motion to accept those minutes by Rick, second.
Yeah.
Dick,
Oh, I wasn't there.
that's right,
I wasn't there. I take that back.
yeah. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
And I'll abstain.
Anyone opposed? You wanna abstain? Okay. Emily, I guess I'll leave this with you. This next is a financial assistance request from the Lake Placid Hall of Fame.
Can I steal a piece of?
You sure can. You know what? I love when this happens.
My computer's broken.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
So get in. So get in.
Yeah, she hard copy today. She's hard copy.
Well, so, but everyone got a copy of this, right, the Hall of Fame request? It should have been in your packet. Rick's looking at me like I'm crazy. Jason?
Yes.
Okay. It should have been in your packet. Basically, so I'm switching, right, obviously, this is not usually a town board member. It's
Excuse me one just second. Oh, man, I forgot. On my way.
Greg, okay, well,
Okay.
we'll cover Hall of Fame while you're in it.
Exactly.
So I am the co-chair, which was Trish Preston for the Hall of Fame committee. And we've actually had a really great, like 2 or 3, after COVID, we've been trying to revamp the format of the Hall of Fame committee. And so we recently redid our bylaws and there was like this, has anyone ever served on the Hall of Fame? Greg, have you served on?
I have not.
It is, the bylaws were very antiquated and you had to come to like, and there was like 3 meetings. Each one you come with these like lists of like 15 people and you could go back and like look through all the files of like people that were nominated since its inception, 1984 or whatever it was. And you like, I don't know, it was just like this really outdated system. So we updated the system, so we're not going back so far. You only have to bring 5 names. And the whole idea is that you're just like really picking higher quality people and you're not just putting people in because of this antiquated voting system. Like it was like you had to vote and then the top 5 moved on and you came back another day. Anyway, so we're trying to reinvigorate the Hall of Fame because I feel like it's gotten a little bit stale lately. I think the committee agreed, so we revamped the bylaws. As part of that, we also changed our format. Instead of doing a Saturday night sit-down dinner, we still did a Saturday night this year, but we did it as like a cocktail hour with appetizers. And I think people were more receptive to that, but at the same time, we are bound by for numerous reasons that they have to be at, order venues, which means you're bound to send a plate. And so it's not like we can shop around for better prices for venues or better prices for food, because it has to be what Center Plate is offering. And that's not necessarily meant to be a complaint, it's just a fact. So our ticket prices for appetizers were $50 a ticket, which I think, that's a lot of money just for a ticket for appetizers, and then it was a cash bar. So we
If
started,
you want a crowd.
yeah, especially, yeah, if you want.
Oh, like, where, is that in the bylaws?
Yeah,
The Florida venue?
Orda has been the fiscal sponsor of the Hall of Fame Committee since its inception, so it's not in the bylaws, but no one else pays for a Hall of Fame except for Orda, like they pay for the plaques. They hold all the historical documentation, and also our staff person is the director. She's not the director of the museum, but she's like the assistant director of the museum. So the staff person comes from an Orda budget as well. So we can't move away from the Orda venue part of it. I mean, maybe Order would entertain that conversation, but I really think they wanna promote their own venues, and not to mention the venues are now, they've all been updated and they're worth going to see and they're worth having events there. The issue is the price of the ticket. So the things we're gonna change this year are one, we're actually, Thursday is the new Friday, that's a quote from MJ Lawrence, I do not take ownership of that.
Okay.
So we're gonna do Thursday instead of Friday or instead of Saturday. And we will do the same thing with appetizers and cash bar. This year it will be at the ski jumps, I'm fairly sure of that. And you know, in that, probably in the upper area.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's full, we get a great turnout. So in order to offset the cost of the ticket price, we're asking the town, the village, Orda and Roost to each contribute $1,000 so that that ticket price can go from hopefully from $50 to more like $20 a ticket.
That's the whole point. I mean, that $50 is,
Yeah, but that's like.
but I
it's
understand
like-
why it is, you know?
We take the price of what the food costs and divide it by how many we think we're gonna go get there.
Probably.
Yeah, and then, and it's not even 200, but we're hoping to get that number back up, and then, you know, anything that we're shortfall on, Order makes up the difference.
Okay,
And also Order pays for the plaques and the staff time.
So I was a little confused because I was looking for the, I see just the agenda. I don't think I got.
Oh, it's not. here's
I didn't get
the-
the board packet. Maybe I'm wrong.
I guess,
Yeah,
I thought
that's
we
what I
did.
thought.
I thought we.
I thought I had the agenda.
I
got
got
it.
Kathy's, yeah, that's all, I guess that's all I got.
So,
Adrian, and they're missing the.
so I guess so while you were saying that, and you were pretty fast, but I was.
Yeah, I was trying to be fast.
But what is the point of subsidizing it as a way to increase attendance for publicity or sort of in?
By lowering the ticket price, we believe we can foster greater community involvement and truly celebrate the accomplishments of our honorees with a wider audience. Lake Placid Hall of Fame holds a special place in our community, serving as a unique platform to recognize and honor those who have positively impacted our region. So yeah, it's about also being more so more people can attend and a more socioeconomic class can attend.
Broader
Question?
awareness.
Would if that award ceremony part, you know, in being integrated in a community day be a better fit?
So that conversation.
Otherwise, it maintains a level of exclusivity.
Yeah, so that.
Many perceive that's what.
Someone, and I honestly at this point don't remember who had this exact, it might have been Darcy Norfolk, had this conversation with me, like, what do you think about combining Hall of Fame with Community Day? And I think they're two different things. And the Hall of Fame has like a different, there's like this athletic component to it, and it's just, it's a different process. You know, you're nominated by the community, then there's a committee that reviews the nominations. And also there's a historical component to it, and you lose all that history if you just move it to Community Day. So I did broach the subject with the committee, like, what about combining with Community Day? And they said, we don't wanna do that. We wanna remain.
I'd rather have it separate anyway.
I
'cause
think it
is.
deserves
Yeah.
a separate
It
isolated
does.
awareness. It's like a retirement party. I mean,
No, it's good,
you
but the
need to
fact,
honor those people.
and with a $50 price tag, it not only is $50, but it also gives you the impression that it's, you know, it's a benefit. You know, that's
Oh,
a
you're right,
benefit
so
price.
no,
You know, I mean, but it gives you that impression. I know it's not.
Yeah.
But it gives you that impression. So at $25, maybe even $30, it's like, come and enjoy the event.
So here was my response to Emily, like, in this year, I'm still fortunate that still got ARPA funds. Okay.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, boy, I'm.
I just not like, or if we're,
But this is gonna be a continuing line item now. So that's why the conversation tonight on your perspectives on the importance of this. Because I can say Roost will most likely follow the town, Village will follow the town. But a subsidy like this will need to be accepted by all, or it's a ineffective move on Hall of Fame committee's part.
So you, maybe I'm missed one little thing, and you did it, I think. You said it. So how many, number one, how many people are showing up in the last time?
The last one was probably 70 or 80. It was pretty
Okay,
small.
so yeah, that's it. So 70 or 80 people show up at $50 a crack. Okay, and if there's not enough money, or it makes up the difference.
Yeah.
Or they,
They
Right,
take,
whatever.
yeah, they
Yeah,
take a
whatever.
lot.
They-
I thought
They
for
make
the
it-
dinner, it's $100.
Well, when it was a dinner, it was
Yeah,
even
with dinner,
more.
but the last time.
Five.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
but
so
the
we
last-
got away from that.
Right.
yeah.
So. What's your anticipation if it's with our funds, everybody's funds? And bringing it down to the $20 figure, what's your anticipated attendance?
Oh, I would hope we get back to over 100.
Okay,
And the other thing too is that I have had a very brief email exchange with MJ. And MJ wants to talk to me about, or talk to the committee about just other ways to help increase attendance and not just subsidizing the price. And so I feel like Bruce's contribution might be something like in-kind services of marketing and things like that,
Mhm.
plus some kind of cash infusion. Because the other interesting thing about Hall of Fame committee is like, Orta has a marketing department, but their marketing department is for like ski jumping events and not for something like this. So their marketing department actually won't touch this.
right,
And so that's where I think having this conversation with Bruce will be very helpful, and so I'm hoping that Bruce is maybe a little bit of cash and a little bit of in-kind services and marketing the Hall of Fame.
But we've got Sydney.
that's right, that's right.
So,
she reports to the news.
So but the last piece of that is, okay, so we bring it down to $25, okay, with the contribution of all the organizations, municipalities, whatever. And it balloons. It's nicely balloons to 400 people. With, no matter what happens. as
You need
Orta-
more subsidy.
No, will Orta agree to pick up the slack? I mean, in the past, maybe it's whatever the figure is, it's not minimal, but it's something. And all of a sudden that slack goes from this to this. Is that still gonna happen? You know what I mean?
I think that at that point, Orta would probably come back. So, I mean, this conversation started because we wanted to do this and Orta said, we're not gonna pay for it.
No, yeah.
So I think they would come back and say, well, you guys, you're really like, we were making up this much of a loss and now we're making up this much of
Yeah.
a loss. So you need to go back to the town and village, or you need to change your ticket pricing. I would imagine that changing the ticket pricing would happen first.
but no, applicants, sorry, Jason, I've got to get this out before I forget.
Fair enough.
Applicants
Yeah, I know.
for this are not just from Lake Placid or the town of North Elba.
No, it's more regional.
It's regional,
Yeah,
so I hate to kick it to Roost, but regional.
Yes. Are,
Could they pick up a bigger percentage of it than the town and the village? I mean, we all know the town and the village are strapped as it is. And,
yeah, I'm happy to have the conversation with MJ first.
yeah,
And then come back to you guys with what Bruce said that they will contribute. And I actually, my only communication with Art has been that he will discuss it with his board, so, and Jackie's out. And so I have to wait for Jackie to get
the
back.
bigger conveson that's going to have to take place budget year
Yes, in
Right.
October.
is all of these, you know, the Mirror Lake, the
Yeah.
Sable, you know, we're looking at more and more people with a fixed request. And our 2% tax cap is getting
Right.
chewed away, so, and then we lean on the bed tax. You know, that fund,
And it has to qualify.
correct,
right, and that's what I was just gonna say, we looked at the occupancy tax at 2%. And obviously, we've talked about it so many times, those funds have diminished, so they can't even
Well,
come.
this
to
is
the-
recurring funding, so it doesn't even
Right.
qualify.
No,
for
I'm just
anything
saying,
like that.
but that's the thing, but other things do, and, you know.
Yeah, and
That pool is.
my only pitch is that I do think that, the Hall of Fame, the town and the village should have some ownership in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
agreed.
And
No, I
so
agree.
there should be a dollar amount contributions.
Yeah, no, I agree.
When is this award? In November? right?
November, because it's hunting season.
Yeah, 'cause that's why.
I get shit for it too.
So I do, not many Hall of Famers ask the people that are involved, but it seems to be a very. It's an eclectic mix, but I would say they're not necessarily destitute individuals. Has there, like, what is the donation
So
situation
as.
with that?
So the other interesting thing about the Hall of Fame is like, it's just this entity, so if anyone's been following food pantries, like, it's similar to what's going on with the food pantry. Like
One feeds people.
But I'm just saying that like the Hall of Fame is not like, it's not an incorporated organization, it doesn't have its own EIN, it doesn't have its own,
Yeah.
it doesn't have its 501c3. It operates under the museum and the museum has its own 501c3, but which operates under ORDA. And so like museum employees are
Is
ORDA
this a
staff.
tax shelter?
So, cause I did ask Courtney, who is the employee at the museum, I said, I was like, who's the town of North, if the town of North does this, who are they writing the check to? The museum? And she was like, no, I think it'd be to ORDA, and I was like, well, that seems weird.
We'll take that out of the.
Yeah, we put
Yeah,
that
I
in
know,
the.
I was like, what are we doing here?
This is a paper chase. I can handle that.
$499,000.
There it is. I think we solved that problem.
Believe me, I thought you guys would all say that. So, yeah, it is kind of odd, like the structure of the Hall of Fame
Yeah.
committee is, it's not formalized, it was very much like an ad hoc. I can't remember who would have done it.
Yeah, 80.
I think it's 84-ish. And so it exists, but it doesn't, and it has a board of directors and it has bylaws, but it does not have its own, it's not its own entity.
I mean, I guess maybe I don't, cause I know of it, but I guess I don't know as much as I would like to in order to make a decision. Usually $1,000 within the constraints of our whole entire budget isn't what, Rick is saying, that in aggregate, that it's enough.
Well, and we would plan to ask every October, so you should know more about it, it's
Yeah.
not like just a one-time
Yeah.
ask.
I'm not against it as of now, but I don't think I'm competent enough to move forward.
Yeah.
There's plenty of memorials, so they can't pay much.
So then we'll wait for round two.
Yeah.
How do you feel about helping out
Oh.
in this initial year with ARPA funds?
Or do you wanna wait until I get back from talking to MJ?
Why don't you see what you can do there?
Okay,
But I'm not opposed to our.
Oh, no, that's the other answer opposed to it.
Cause I think that would be an ideal sort of
People involved.
transition.
And now you guys will all attend it, which none of you attended it last year.
I've
Every kind of
never been to one
excuse
period, but
I'm
that's.
for
Well, it just. Because they didn't elect you. I feel like maybe there's a perception in the community, it's more of a exclusive
Yeah.
club, so that's
Well,
where
maybe
like,
on Thursday nights, it's gonna be $20 a ticket.
well, maybe people need to be aware of the transition from what it was perceived to be to what it can be now.
And I think Bruce will help with that.
Yeah, it's more of a community event and you come for $25 and you have hors d'oeuvres and a.
Like I said, like the direction that it's going, but if you were saying it under what was previously perceived.
I mean, we all get invited to things that are under $200, $300, okay?
I'm just a teacher.
And, well, you're in the $50 range, so
Well, that's even.
that's it. So, well, my point is,
Diapers are expensive.
$50 is not a, that's a chunk. Yeah.
We all make choices, I know.
I think $50 is too much. If we're trying to, what we're trying to do is really celebrate these important people who made a difference in our community, either athletic wise or volunteerism wise. Then we should not be charging $50 a ticket because it's about celebrating
I agree.
whatever.
Yeah.
their successes.
Yeah.
It's all about, I mean, I'm not, because Sydney's here, but the enterprise has done a
Oh,
good
is this
job.
up for the record?
No,
You wouldn't say it,
sure,
somebody else would.
sure.
Yeah.
That's all on the record, guys.
Guys are
The
talking
enterprise has
out
done a
loud.
good job in the past couple of years,
It's being recorded, I will review it.
putting the criteria down,
Yeah,
and explaining what it's all about. It's just not
I
a.
think it would be great
Press release.
community awareness.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
It will be better.
I think that's might be a necessary component.
Yeah.
in that sort of-
All right, we've
I like
put
your
this
vision.
farce enough.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, because we got eight.
Very well,
parts.
Mike. Come on up.
We voted,
Did we take you out, Mike?
Trying to sue, I said, we on the couch. How did this-
Greg, I voted for it, Nelson's is not here.
Well, when you said 2 minutes, I knew where you were.
Yeah.
You say get on board.
So really, all we're doing tonight is confirming both routes,
Okay,
and you need
or
that.
3 routes, or
Three
5
routes?
routes.
depending on,
Oh, but you still have options?
no, I'm thinking. there's
Marathon half
different
and
events.
5K, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
Main
Two
Street
at the
Mile,
marathon.
are we talking Main Street Mile tonight or no?
yeah, I think.
Sounds like a
it'd be good.
village issue.
I don't care about Main Street.
Yeah, it really sounds.
That's village.
Well, we do represent the people in the village, however, we don't live there.
Yeah. the
They've
village-
already made their
Yeah,
decision.
exactly.
four of us live in the village, so.
So
Start with the big one.
the big one is the marathon, which hasn't changed. The half marathon hasn't changed, the 10K changes and enters part of the town at the corner store.
Yeah.
100 people cap, so maximum 100 people, 67 have signed up so far. They would go right at the corners, you know, around the lake, down Mill Hill,
Okay.
to the corner store, take a right, go Newman Road with traffic, and then hop on the
Okay.
sidewalk on Old Military, hop on the sidewalk on Station Street. And then come back out to Lower Main Street and go up the normal route, back up the hill.
Oh, so it's a quick, they won't even be
They
on?
won't close any road.
No, no, no,
No,
That's
Okay.
my description, and,
Wait, when they come to Station Street, where?
Station Street,
What-
back
up
to
the
Lisa
hill.
G's and back up the normal route,
Mill
come
Hill.
back up.
Which will be closed.
Mill Hill, yeah, that's close for the race anyway, then
Right,
left
Okay,
on, what is it, Mill Pond Drive, and then right on McLennan.
our own, Rick and I were discussing, not today, but
oh,
previously.
now you're coming out there.
Yeah, that's where that was.
That, you know, I mean, you always have volunteers and everything like that,
Mhm.
but the question came up that, you know, you're saying on the sidewalk.
Right.
They don't stay on the sidewalk. But if we got enough volunteers to
Right.
go like this,
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah.
You
You
know,
know, people will
take the-
pass and
yeah.
jump on, the trouble is, I mean, there's a decent shoulder on Old Military, but there's also sidewalk.
But you're running with traffic.
But you're running with traffic,
I
that's
don't-
the
I would
issue.
run the sidewalk if I was running with traffic.
Oh, yeah, but the thing is, we've gotta keep them on the sidewalk.
Exactly,
That's the point. So,
yeah,
you know, we could, you know, you could figure out what distance you need for
Mhm.
volunteers.
Yeah.
But whatever interval, you know, they're like this,
Mhm.
you know, stay on the sidewalk.
So,
As opposed to at a turn, just turn, go down the
Yeah.
sidewalk and hope for the best.
no, well, we would put somebody at that turn anyway.
Right,
And they could have a line of sight to see people, and if there's a problem, they could run up and say, hey, hop, back up, get back on the sidewalk.
is that enough to use your?
Not really.
Okay.
You know, in other words, I can understand the line of sight if you had multiple people there.
Mhm.
But let's say, you know, you're going, you get off Newman, and
Yeah.
you gotta go I'm just saying, all the way to the Station Street.
Station Street,
You know, I mean, you're
Well,
gonna
I
have a
would
number.
put them, I would put somebody at Newman and Old Military, put them at Station Street, Old Military, put them like at the elementary school.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
maybe even a couple in
Yeah, in
between.
between.
I'm not saying every 50
No,
feet,
Right.
but
And
you just line of sight.
Yeah, we
You're,
don't want
you're
anybody.
you're only concerned really about Old Military, you're not concerned about Station Street, about.
Not as much.
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell them,
Because of traffic's.
yeah, that's the thing, and you know, that's Old Military,
Yeah. Mhm.
you know, I'm
Not
not.
a race, I help Dick, I know what
Yeah,
he's
yeah, that's
concerned
right,
with,
Yeah,
cause they weave and they get complacent.
Yeah.
And they're halfway into that lane
Yeah,
of
even,
traffic.
even though you've got just only, not just, only 100,
Mhm.
there's gonna be, chances are there's
A couple
packs of
people.
2 or 3 or
Yeah.
4, and all of a sudden one wants to take off,
Mhm.
you know. They're gonna go out and
Yeah.
all of a sudden, boom, uh-oh,
So,
Yeah.
well, how many do you think, just so there's something,
Well, I mean-
well, we can walk away?
well, we could approximate,
five
let's say
people.
5 people,
Yeah.
5 people, within that, from Newman
From
to
Newman
Station
to
Street,
Station.
Station Street.
Yeah,
Okay.
He will be driving around Main State too.
Yeah,
Yeah, he'll be one of those five.
Yeah, he'll be.
You and I will be on.
There we go, right?
No, I'm gonna
You going over north?
I'll help you guys again. So there's
Yeah, there you
three.
go.
No, I can't help him, I won't be here,
Oh, no kidding.
won't be here.
You're on
In
vacation.
June?
So, the 1%,
First weekend of June.
Oh, that's right.
1% of flying around the world, staying at one of.
All right,
those
so that takes
27
care of
different
Mara.
factors.
Okay,
Iron Man,
Iron Man,
any new things that we need to know about?
Iron Man, not in,
Because you
not in the
keep-
town of North Elba.
No, because you gained your 2 miles back in
In Jay.
Jay, that's right.
yeah.
Okay.
So you guys know, Jay, we're going. And this is, obviously, we haven't confirmed it yet, but our hope is that working with Matt Stanley and the DOT. And Jim Dugan at Essex County to go across the covered bridge for the bike course.
Yeah.
Wow. that's
For
great.
for Ironman. So we're working on that section to get approval, and there's some bollards in the way, and whether we rip the bases out or we just. Build a ramp over them, take the bollards out and then build a ramp over the bases that are there. That's what Jim and Matt Stanley were working on with us.
I can say it's neat because I don't have to worry about that at all.
Yeah, no, that has nothing to do with North Elba, but
Right.
that's what's hopefully going to happen for the bike course. And the run course will stay the same as it always is. Well, no, the run course doesn't stay the same.
No, it isn't, no.
Run course goes up on Wilmington Road to Northwood Road and then turns around.
Right.
So it's, the space stays the same because we used to run the bikes there.
Right.
But the time frame changes, so it goes from, the bikes were cut off at 5:30, so that goes all the way to midnight. So the issue there is, and I was talking to Chuck about it, that people assume that they can get out and go to Wilmington
Yeah.
after 5:30 when the bike course no.
Oh, it doesn't change.
So this will change until, they won't be able to get out till midnight. But if we open up not Algonquin Drive, but Iroquois Road,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that it's always been open, and so we divert traffic that way.
Oh, no.
So they go, no, Iroquois to Northwood Road,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
and then they take a right on Northwood Road, then they go left.
right, yeah, once you get over.
Once the bikes are done.
So there's an avenue out and
Yes.
communication for
Exactly.
people living there.
Yeah, because they used to go around
The
this.
police are worried about that, people are expecting to go Wilmington Road, but we'll have to do signage and.
But I think that-
Well, they still can, it's just a different way to
Yeah,
get to
yeah,
it.
exactly,
That's all it
so
is. Yeah.
we'll turn them around, we'll put signs, detour signs, and we'll do a postcard like we always do, like we've done last year. And indicate that's where the new detour is, and we'll expect people to be annoyed because they don't go the way they've been in the past, but. The cops will know where. to-
Just as long as you say, they can't say, we didn't hear about it, you just have a.
Well,
The
Yeah.
club.
It's behind the old club,
Yeah, where the
Super
Vargas
Club.
used to live, I
Vargas,
don't know if you
yeah.
know that.
back where Lucy's apartment buildings are.
Yeah.
And it hooks right back up to Northwood.
Yeah.
There's usually stones across the
Yeah.
road, it's
Yeah.
Northwood.
It's about,
And Iroquois.
from 86, it's about what, 200 yards back?
Yeah.
And there's usually stones there.
So then you would be getting, so Iroquois dumps out onto 86?
No,
No,
the
no, no,
Northwood Road.
But I thought Northwood Road.
It's
not-
closed until the bikes. are
And
done,
then
And then, so, till 5:30, when the bike cutoff happens, a little bit after, then we push people out. Yeah, so the time frame it just flip flops a little bit, it just extends the time when people can't use Wilmington Road. And I was thinking the residents on Wilmington Road, we'll suggest to them that they park their car, on Morningside Drive or somewhere, and then they can walk to Morningside. And if we have to get our bike course guys to give them a ride, so if somebody's elderly, whatever, we can do that.
Yeah.
And we have a community relations person that we're hiring. I think Lauren St. Louis agreed to it, but I haven't confirmed that.
Yeah.
And then Lucy said we say it's okay for them to park.
Yeah, that's not their property,
Oh.
it's a public, I think Iroquois is a public road.
It is.
Morningside Drive is definitely a village.
Yeah.
Morningside.
Morningside.
Well, I thought you were talking about as you go through. I'm
Yeah,
thinking something different.
Yeah, as you look through the back road of the club, I think it's public, but Iroquois.
Part of it is, that's why they can shut it off,
Yeah.
Right.
part of it, but the further part going toward
Where they
the
put
road
this,
is private.
Okay, I'll talk to Art, I mean, he always.
They've done it in the
He
past.
always moves.
Yeah.
Greg, do you still need confirmation in an email for these race courses, or
I
can we
don't,
tell you
I
tonight?
think we're set,
Yeah.
I think you already sent me something
I did on
on the marathon,
yeah,
right?
so I'm just saying, if you need another.
I don't think we need another one from Iron Man, I think you already approved it.
You need
before.
one for marathon?
I think I'm set with marathon.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, any further concerns?
Not very well.
No, now that you have 76 signed up, I say no. See what he does,
What's that? 67 for
67,
the 10K,
so.
I mean, we capped it
I'll let you
100,
scramble.
I only have 100 t-shirts, so I can't have.
No,
If I don't
I don't
get
wanna
a
listen to
t-shirt,
that.
damn it.
Yeah, I don't wanna listen to that.
No, I mean, that's the thing, old military is my only concern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I agree, and I've been talking to Mike Flynn at State Police, and he's he's aware of the change and all that stuff, so. So I think there'll be a trooper at both intersections as well.
Okay,
Yeah, but I'll double check. Well, actually, no, he didn't tell me about that, but I'll have to ask him if he can do that.
we'll ask one more question then, it's a general answer. With Iron Man, how are negotiations going with state police?
It's good, actually, the state police agreed to let us get other law enforcement agencies involved, and instead of paying a state trooper at their $137 an hour average rate. I talked to Jimmy Williams, I also talked to Darren Parati at Saranac Lake about having some Saranac Lake PD supplement our posts, So, and they're in at a lower rate, but you know, we'll pay them their overtime.
How does that work if they're, like, New York State has jurisdiction over New York State where they are
Yeah.
contained within
The
the
state
village?
police are happy. Originally, we talked about having flaggers from like a construction company like Donnelly or something.
Yeah,
Right.
And he goes, I'd much rather have a law enforcement person there rather than a flagger. He goes, well, you know, the law enforcement works with each other all the time, so.
So they wouldn't,
They're
Not
not
that-
giving tickets or
they're not
arresting people.
but there's a police presence.
Yeah, there's a
secret police
professionalism
car,
and a law enforcement
Okay.
presence there.
But they have a plan to communicate with whatever agency is necessary. if
Yes,
something happens.
and
So they-
And that was a
they
good
law
question, actually.
professionals, you know.
Jimmy Williams said, are you gonna be using our patrol cars? And I'm like, no, they can drive their own car there and they can just man the post and be at the post with the state troopers. Cause they won't be on their own.
Are they
Saranac
on
Lake
duty?
Wouldn't be on their own, but they would be with a state
Yeah.
trooper.
Oh, okay, all right.
They'd be a combined post.
Good, that's good.
Well, Essex County Sheriff's Department.
I asked them to, yeah, so
Okay,
Darren was gonna work with Mike Blaze and work with,
okay,
with,
about Clinton County.
Clinton County, I asked them about Clinton County sheriffs too, but they limited it to like 9 replacement troopers, so there's not that many
Okay,
for this year. And then as they go on, they said maybe as the years go down the road, we can, if everything works out, we can maybe relieve some of our, because a lot of the state troopers are retiring
Okay.
and rather than hiring a new state trooper to do that, they would hire a local, you know, either sheriff or local. PD.
okay.
You know, and some of the extra things that in the past that the troopers have brought with them, did you get those cut back or?
No, they won't cut those back. But we asked them if they would consider using it as a training tool rather than charging us, but
Hmm.
they have to pass it down through Albany
Yeah,
because they take their orders direct.
and there's a couple things that they are cutting back this year, like they have what's called Overwatch.
Yeah, okay.
And they said they're gonna reduce those because they said they found not much of a need for Overwatch, so somebody watching the troopers in case there's trouble.
Right.
Okay, so good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was good.
Sorry to get you off the couch.
That's all right. I'll go back on it right
right.
He ran up here, he's gonna.
Ran around
now.
walk.
Oh, I broke my bike.
Okay, okay.
I got a new
He's in
bike.
shape. He's fine.
Good luck.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck with your new venture too down
I
there.
appreciate it.
Davina, I feel like I should at least be polite to you. Hope you don't feel obligated to sit through all this with all the meetings you have to have and stuff. Certainly, you're welcome to stay, but
Okay,
you know what I'm saying.
We should try to make it more entertaining for you.
this is very entertaining. It's kind of interesting to actually see it from this side of the room. So. Can I have a minute?
Sure.
Is that okay? Can I
Sure.
interrupt you? I mean.
I think we can give a courtesy to the same supervisor.
Well, we're here till 9 o'clock regardless, so. it doesn't-
Okay. Great. So I'm Davina Thurston. I am the Town of St. Armand Supervisor. I am your immediate neighbor. Most of you probably know, St. Armand owns Echo Bay on Lake Placid. I work with Derek at the Essex County Board of Supervisors. And I'm here tonight with Jackie Niederbuell, and I'm gonna give her a minute as soon as she comes back in. Her daughter's in the car doing this. So, we all know how that goes. So I've been kind of just going to town board meetings and just kind of as a follow-up with regards to the report that Diane Fox handed out to everyone today. So you know, we've been really deep diving into this, and Diane came to our town board on April 16th. Some of the things that she said were very concerning about you know, closing Bloomingdale School. I think you probably read some of that in the paper. You know, they're going through a big budget vote coming up on May 21st. So, you know, there's some things that are very concerning, and one of the things is about the report itself. So the report that Diane handed out to you today, so
That's fine.
yes,
Okay.
yeah. So myself and Carl Lau, who is my deputy,
Mhm.
we've taken a real deep dive swimming into this and trying to, you know, figure out what does this actually mean, you know?
Okay.
A lot of it is projections. And it's a little bit concerning because it's based on if these 15 things happen, this is what's gonna happen. So one of the things that I just wanted to quickly point out, I won't take up time, but too much time. But,
Again, we're gonna be here till 8 to 9 or anything, so.
okay, some of our meetings go till 11, so I feel you.
Well, Derek, you just went that much higher.
Yeah, we really sometimes have some big stuff, but anyways, squirrel, I lost where I was, I apologize. So this, thank you, I got it now, I'm getting back up in. So this doesn't actually take a look at anything positive that is happening. And Derek actually touched on it a little bit today, which was fantastic. So this is kind of it's kind of doom and gloom, right? Like if we don't do something, you know, we're not gonna have a population and, you know, all of these things. So, you know, Derek knows, and we are working very hard in Essex County. I know that you folks over here in North Elba are working very hard to address the housing situation. So we have, you know, 71 new units going in Saranac Lake. There's another 83 that are scheduled. And this report doesn't take into consideration any of those things.
And St. Armand is within the Saranac Lake School District as well.
Right, so the town of St. Armand is approximately 56 square miles, so you know, a corner of it is in the village of Saranac Lake, we kind of share some area down there. And so, and then we come all the way over to here and hit Franklin and so, yeah.
Okay,
So anyway.
so I'm just drawing the connection the two, just.
Right, so the other thing that Diane spoke about at our town board meeting is that. And I think you probably saw this in the paper, she stated that the Petrova Elementary School was bursting at the seams. And then she said, there's not enough students to fill Bloomingdale School. And that didn't sit very well with me because you really can't have both of those statements, you have to pick one, right? So I personally moved to Bloomingdale 32 years ago. I am a Keene native, so I grew up in this area. So 32 years ago, my son was 1 year old and I wanted him to go to Bloomingdale School, and a lot of people feel like that. So I have made it my mission since this, you know, this report and Diane speaking to everyone about, you know, the declining enrollment and reaching out to as many people as I can to try to get like, what is the meat of this? What is going on? And so it's not all as doom and gloom here, you know, and there are other considerations, you know, and we need to be proactive, absolutely. You know, Bloomingdale just opened Little Tykes daycare, St. Paul's Church was sold. Lindsay Murray is doing a fantastic program there. You know, she has available big space, you know, so the kids that get done in Bloomingdale, you know, can go there. And it's also really concerning what is happening at Bloomingdale School. I've talked to a lot of people, teachers, aides, cafeteria, bus drivers, everybody that either do work at Saranac Lake Central School District or have worked or are married to somebody that works there. And 201, they all said, this board has planned on closing Bloomingdale School in 2027. Every single one of them have said that to us.
I almost feel like when you live in the community, it's always implied that the school is on the chopping block at any given time anyway.
Well-
That was always the implied sort of conversation.
Yeah, unfortunately,
I'm not saying it
Yeah.
like that, I support that, I'm just saying it's one of those things where like within the teacher circles,
sure,
it seems like,
sure.
is it gonna be open next year? Is it
Right.
gonna be open next year? It seems to be this sort of situation.
I don't disagree with you with that statement. But again, Petrova's bursting at the seams and there's not enough students for Bloomingdale. They're not cohesive.
I guess it's important that you have this part of the conversation because all the data would lead to the situation where closing the school would be the most conducive and best for the community, but it's good that you have a counter sort of perspective to offer to say, hey, this isn't necessarily the case.
Right.
Because there are a lot of people, even this far out here, still have a conversation, but don't really know.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. So, and that to me is the most concerning part, right? We're on a board, we all know, you know, you have to be transparent with people. And Diane has said to me publicly, that they had never had a conversation about closing Bloomingdale School in a meeting.
Mhm.
So just the whispers and it's, you know, it's concerning. But the other hand of this that I really wanted to bring to you today is that I have personally spoke to 9 families, not just in St. Armand, but, you know, town of Franklin, Paul Smith, Santa Clara. 9 families who told me that they wanted to send their kids to Bloomingdale School and they were told that they could not. And 2 of those families, because they did not want to send their kids to Petrova, which is very busy and very active, and they didn't feel that their children would do well in that situation, chose to send their children to St. Bernard School instead. So, you know, I think that, you know, we need to break this apart a little bit and really get to the meat of the matter. And I just want to give you a little bit of that as food for thought. So I just wanted to tell you that, and I know Derek, I chewed his ear a little bit today too.
That's all right, and you know, Rick can associate what I'm gonna say with this. I actually sat on the school board that was involved in closing Lake Clear.
Mm,
And it's hard because you have to wear so many hats.
Yeah.
You're not in a position yet to look at a document that talks about fuel usage, labor costs. All declining, population alone is not a reason to close a school.
right,
So the school board will have to be very diligent in, coming up with a business plan
mhm,
that makes sense to the taxpayers as a whole.
mhm,
That's a very hard thing to do,
yeah,
from fighting the teachers' unions that don't wanna lose even one job.
mhm,
And listen, it's a wicked challenge. I respect both sides of this issue
Sure.
right now.
yeah,
And you know, I guess what I'm politely saying is, before a board like ours could at least get on board with an idea or even take a stance on it.
sure,
We have to have numbers, anything we do as a board,
Mhm.
anything your board
Yeah.
does, has to be defendable or justified.
sure,
So I'm thinking that these are initial reactions to nothing but population at this point.
mhm,
And for them to put a package together for everyone to understand that it is justifiable to close, it's gonna take quite a while.
right, sure, and
Can I interject real quick?
please, this is Jackie.
Hi, Jackie Needville, I know.
I only talk to you about cutting trees.
Yeah. Well, I definitely, it seems like, well, they're going to start having conversations about potentially maybe closing it. They're already doing things that are sort of taking resources away from that school. And the little girl that I just brought in is Lily, my daughter. She has thrived there. There's, you know, really great classrooms, super small, lots of confidence coming out of every kid that comes from that school. It's a treasure. I've even offered to donate my services in landscaping and upgrading the grounds. I've, you know, tried working with them to get donations because it just seems like they're really just sort of letting it fall by the wayside. A lot of great teachers are getting displaced and brought to Petrova. They're slowly like seeping things away,
Right.
like all of the best items of Bloomingdale are leaving.
Yeah,
And with them sort of switching, you know, not letting certain families go there. I mean, I grew up in Onchayota, Upper J for a while, but Onchayota, it was a pain for my parents to get us to Saranac Lake, my brother. I actually started going to Northwood because it was just easier, a little bit further and
Yeah.
a better education because they weren't entirely happy with Saranac Lake. I learned very differently from everyone else. I need to be hands-on and completely understand what I'm doing. My oldest daughter does the same, and she isn't getting totally left behind at Saranac Lake. We need to divide up our classrooms and spread everyone out and help those kids that need more hands-on. Because in the time that we're having all these conversations about, you know, losing the school, they're gonna be out. Holly's gonna be graduated and she's gonna have gained
does that
Minimal.
report have current enrollment numbers per grade? Or she said 6 to 12 isn't done yet?
Yeah, no, this is, and this is actually excerpts of the study, so we don't have the whole study, so that's a little bit concerning as well. I'm sorry.
No,
Okay.
don't, no, I'm done.
So,
My rant.
yeah, no, it's okay. So that, I was actually going there, so I'm glad that you kind of pulled that in.
We're very passionate about
We
it.
are.
And I get just to touch on, so the instability, like the whisper within the teacher culture is like, is this school gonna close? Creates an instability of, if a teacher's going to teach there, how long am I going to teach there?
Right.
And if it's not gonna be there, I'm going to look for a job elsewhere, then,
The mayor's decision.
Right.
is here.
yeah.
And they are doing that. They are trying to, they're reaching out, they're trying to offer their services, doing tutoring and homeschooling. And honestly, I don't want my daughter continuing into the high school. I'm going to pull her and homeschool her if I can't do something now.
So the 21st could reflect 3 brand new.
And that's why Jackie, I'd like to introduce you to Jackie Niederbuhl, who is running for the Saranac Lake School Board. So along with Rebecca Law and Patrick Dupree. Don't you have flyers to give?
I do, yes, yes.
So Jackie wanted to come tonight and introduce herself, and you know, I spoke to Derek earlier at a different meeting, and I just wanted to give you guys all just a little bit of a heads up. And, you know, let you know that it's not all black and white. Okay, and it's
Thanks.
you know, there's more to the story, I guess I
Well,
would say.
Have they
Thanks
published
for the
all this on
update.
their
It's good
website?
for us to
No.
know both sides. Because believe it or not, 25% of the village of Saranac Lake lies within.
Right, sure.
I don't know how many students that is, because really my impression is all there is left is us old.
Right, right. Well,
There's- There isn't.
However, I was gonna say, how long ago we worked together as DJs,
yeah.
in the 90s?
So anyway, we'll keep our eyes on the situation.
Okay.
Thank you for attending.
Thank you for giving us a minute. Really appreciate it. Derek, as always. It's a pleasure. Thank you. All right, I will leave it. Thank you guys so much.
Good luck, Jackie.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Yes, good.
These are yours.
Yep.
Okay, thanks, guys.
I can't be.
See you soon.
Take care. Bye, guys. Thank you. Yeah, collect my daughter. She might have a day and work here. Sometimes she can. You're hoping chocolate still.
Appreciate your time, folks.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome
Very,
anytime.
very informative, thank you.
Thanks.
Next item is really just a formality. We already really okayed it with this noise ordinance waiver request for the June 22nd wedding over on Mirror Lake. All the returns came back to the building code office. There wasn't one negative one.
Okay.
Everyone's in agreement.
Well, and they're supposed to be here talking if they had opposition, right?
That's right.
And
Yeah.
then iPad, are you here to talk about
Anything?
anything about, no, not about anything, about the noise?
No.
ordinance?
No,
Or-
I'm just listening. I'm just
Okay.
listening. Thank you.
So, Laura, thank you.
Okay.
I received 2 emails in favor from people,
Okay.
so nothing opposed.
Good. So with that, I think maybe I'll just take a vote in case, so we're all in agreement. Can I have a motion to accept the noise ordinance? Okay, Jason, second by Dick. Any further discussion?
I take it that Darcy and Dave are.
Yes,
Yeah, but-
I verified with them, so that I didn't make, Marcy come here to the meeting.
Okay.
Because
Thanks.
she would have had to travel here and
Right, right.
it's a formality.
Right.
All in favor? Aye. No one opposed, carried. Thank you. Our next item is also a resolution in support of a Restore New York grant. And like I usually do. Do you want me to give this to you, Emily? Do you want to explain any aspect like the property and the whole bit?
Yes, I don't think I've seen this yet.
These just
That's-
together.
And it's really just a formality. I don't care if you read the whole thing.
Does everyone know what the restored grant, what the application is for? Jason?
I recall going through the.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Oh, yeah, it was in an email at some point. So it's a portion of the Hurley Brothers building, which is located at 268 Station Street. So if you're looking at the building, there's the office space and then there's the warehouse space. Bill's plan is to renovate a portion of the warehouse space into 4 to 5 residential units, whatever fits best. Yeah, I have seen his architectural drawings. The last I saw, he was gonna have 4 1-bedrooms. And then potentially, if depending on this funding source, he might do 2 1-bedrooms and 2 2-bedrooms, which would then extend to the second floor of that warehouse. If he just does 1 story, then there's still like a whole story of the warehouse that's open. So there's a lot of space there, and obviously, so for Restore New York, you have to have vacant, abandoned, condemned properties. The whole idea is you're reinvigorating a property that's being underutilized. And as we know, Hurley Brothers sold to High Fuel 2-ish years ago, and so that property is definitely underutilized.
That's the pump station treating it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I think that'll be cool.
yeah, it meets the criteria for Restore Grant. Do you
To
want
be
to?
specific, those are long-term rental.
Yes, but he could. I mean, there's nothing to say that he's in Village Center.
Correct.
And so there's also there's nothing in Restore that says they can't be short-term rental, like a hotel could apply for Restore. Actually, Restore is more geared towards
But his intention.
his
is-
intention. And if you, that's what Bill does, he has multiple long-term
It's
rentals.
experience.
Yeah, he's not his first foray into long-term rental.
And this, I don't know if this is in his plan, but as far as parking for those units in the back,
I'm not sure he needs the back.
Yeah, I don't think he needs it. Well, because he's selling, that's a subdivision in the back of land.
okay, I'm just wondering, because I mean, obviously there's room up front,
Yeah,
but. There's not a lot of room.
and of course, the final version of that would go in front of joint review board anyway, wouldn't it?
Yeah, any version
Yeah.
would go over.
I just wondered if that was in his plan at all, that's all.
I have not seen a parking plan, but that would be part of the review board process.
Do you wanna, let him know we are under a timeline?
Yeah, so this resolution has to be passed and then they saw the timeline because you know that I scheduled a public hearing for
Right.
Monday at 4 o'clock.
Monday the 20th.
Yes.
Yes.
Which was published in the paper. I don't like looking at Adrian too.
Yeah.
Published in the paper, with this information about the property.
Yes, that one.
And so if everyone remembers, this is the exact same grant that Cambria applied for last year. And the other side note is that I did directly reach out to people that were a little bit upset about Cambria last year. Just to ask them if they were interested in this, and they said, it's a great thing to know about, but a little bit too tight of a time frame. We'll keep it in mind for next year. So I think this
So
is.
thank you for reaching out.
Yeah,
That was
it was,
one of the
I feel
concerns
bad
last
that
time.
it was so late, but,
Yeah.
and
Next time it'll be more timely.
yeah,
We'll in the right direction.
so I think this is a good program for everyone to have on their radar, and now the big hotel people have it on their radar.
Did you mention a limit? Is 800,000 the top end on Restore?
No, I think it's more than that.
Okay,
But Bill is asking for 500,000. I don't think that says that in here, but he's asking for 500,000, and that's, I think, about 48% of his project estimated project cost.
right.
I kind of made up that 48%. I don't know.
I appreciate you saying that.
This project cost.
You don't have to tell us that.
It was like, it was my fault. I did 27. I don't know why I lied right there. I turned 6.
The confidence.
Yeah, really, really.
You were doing well.
Oh, that just made my ear.
It's like on TV, it's like on TV, let's say to the jury, you did not hear that, you didn't hear that, disregard that.
Okay, so I'm not gonna read the resolution because the resolution basically says all that with a bunch of whereas, but the last part is. Now therefore be it resolved that the town of Delbach hereby supports and will sponsor an application for restoring or funding for redevelopment of the portion of Hurley Brothers LLC at 268 Station Street. And will administer the grant in accordance with all applicable rules and regulations established by ESDC. And be it further resolved that the town supervisor is authorized to sign the applications and any agreements required by ESDC for grant funding that results from this application.
So moved.
A second.
Second, any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Carries.
He really
So
is
I-
asking for
I-
that.
But we still have the percentage, we still know the percentage, okay, it's actually 47.5.
Next item is the resolution as well, and we've talked about this a number of times. It is resolving an assessment issue with Halls. I believe that property is out on the peninsula. Long story short, whereas John Hall and Jeanette Alonso Hall, petitioners, filed an Article 7 real property assessment review case against the town, challenging the 23 assessment on real property located at 8 White Birch Way. Tax map parcel, you don't need that. Whereas it appears to be in the best interest of the town to avoid the significant cost that would result if the litigation continues and goes to trial. And whereas the town assessor now recommends proposed settlement terms which have been negotiated with the petitioners. Now therefore be the 23 assessment challenge shall be discontinued without reduction or refunds. The assessed value of $2,650,000 shall be fixed for the 24, 25, and 26 assessment rolls, unless the property is further improved or the assessment is subject to some other exception under real property tax law. However, the assessments will be held for these assessment rolls 24 through 26 in the event of a townwide revaluation. And be it further resolved that approval of this settlement agreement is contingent upon the town's council's review and approval of the stipulation and order of settlement, which we have. I got that stipulation from our legal counsel. Be it further resolved that the town board further authorize and directs the town supervisor, town assessor, town clerk, and or town council to execute settlement documents and take any additional steps necessary to effectuate the proposed settlement in accordance with the terms of this resolution. Duly adopted this 14th day of May, 2024 by the following votes. All those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Do you get that? All right. So that passes. Next item, had a few meetings on the new Ironman contract. I guess I wasn't in on the last meeting, but was okay with the contract as long as concerns that you guys put up were satisfied. So I think just for the sake of a little discussion, maybe you might bring up those couple things that were confirmed, you know, so that the public knows.
Yeah, so we want to go first.
Sure.
So what,
Another question.
what I had asked
We'll get
for,
to Virgin later, don't worry.
what I had asked for was the breakdown of the $40,000 volunteer grants. Is that what they're called? Volunteer grants? Which means that they volunteered at an aid station. So it's an organization
Right,
that
yeah.
volunteered at an aid station.
Right.
Because I've asked for those before, I've never gotten the breakdown. And so MJ asked Airman Foundation and she shared 23 and 22 with us, which I just shared with you and you. And it's a very, you were on the original email.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so. I spelled that down, sorry, I didn't know she was special.
And so it's everything I wanted, like it's the organization and how much money they got, and they're definitely all local organizations, like you, or somewhat local, or if they're not local, you know why they got, like it was like, I'm trying to think of some of the ones that were like super local. Like they did it because they wanted the $1,000, like it was an organization that came here and volunteered and they got their $1,000 for coming here and volunteered.
And the other concern was, you know, they set aside the 40K, but what if they didn't have to pay out the 40K? That was
Yeah.
the other concern.
Yeah, well, and like, so I was like, what if in 2022, there was only so many organizations, they only paid out, you know,
Yeah.
$10,000, but that was not the case. So both years, they almost hit the $40,000 mark, they were like $3,000 short in 23 and $100 short in 22. And so I did say to MJ, like, what if there's an excess, do you think maybe like that money could go into LEAF, you know, it's like something, and she said, I'm happy to cross that bridge when we come here, but it's nothing that should be dealt with in the contract. And I said, I'll agree with that, like, you know, if we see the spreadsheet and there's a shortfall of $10,000, we're gonna say, what are you gonna do with that $10,000? Because it says in the contract, a minimum of $40,000,
Okay, so there's language within it.
and that says minimum of $40,000, yeah.
What about the 10K from?
Yeah,
That's added,
That's,
Well,
that's
that-
that's my concern.
or.
But was that put into the language?
Yes.
I did-
Yeah.
I did see it blurry, but I just wanted to talk.
Well, the 10 is in there.
Right.
But, you know, I'm concerned with that figure going back into the community. But because it's the foundation and not the Ironman company,
Well, the other is the foundation as well, 40 grand.
Right, but so that's in there.
And that's what confused me.
Yeah, but
Why is it in there?
yeah, that's true. But however, my point is, like I said, I believe that 10 is low for historically. However, as far as, okay, they're saying we'll put a minimum of 10 in,
For each year,
No, it's 1 year.
it's 1 year, so 1 year.
For each year of the contract.
okay, so you're saying for 1 year, yeah, I'm saying for every year.
For every other contract,
All right,
I mean, I'd like to see that figure higher, but it depends upon the foundation. They are at least putting that 10 in there,
Can I see that part?
you know, so I think it should be higher, but as far as.
Page 3,
Right,
page 3.
what number were you thinking then?
I don't really have, I'm just historically going back to what that put back in.
We
the-
discussed that at the latest meeting.
Yeah.
And we're at a tipping point right now.
Oh, yeah,
And what I've been told is that that's not part of the contract.
that's a point,
normally.
that's
It's-
why, I don't want my. You know, unhappiness with that 10K figure to affect the contract,
Right,
that's the point.
But they put it in there because it was requested to be put in there. by
Right, so I mean,
the village.
there's at least 10, okay.
Yeah.
So I think I guess what I'm asking is then as a board as a whole, collective, that we're okay with the 10,000?
Well, no,
I mean, we would like it to be
I'm
large.
I'm okay with the contract,
We can, I think we can approach the foundation.
foundation,
here's what I feel the best about, I really feel that this relationship with this Audra
yes,
Yes.
is much closer than we've been in the past. And I know, you know, the old guy is a
Dave.
personal friend of you,
no, he's not, I mean, no, he's not, but
but I do.
I have a good relationship with him.
I do see a better sincerity out of this Audra, and that's nothing against Dave.
Well, I've been on, in the past, when we had events committee meetings, Dave was on there. And Audra was on the last one we had too, but Dave was on there and he just didn't say much.
Yeah,
Whereas Audra is saying more, and plus the good part is Audra is, that's the foundation.
right,
So you know, we don't have to go talk to Iron
There's
Man
not
and
another
talk to
step.
foundation.
right,
We talk to the same person.
yeah.
So my point is to make the fact on the record that
Just waiting for one.
that's right, just that, you know, I'm not happy that it's minimally 10K, but at least it's in there. And the contract itself is fine by me,
Yep,
but I'd like to see that figure higher, but that's not the contract.
I agree, but we can put that in our sights
Yes.
for our assessment
Yeah.
after this year's race.
And the fact that they did change the part about that we were to provide certain services down in the showgrounds, and that's been taken out. That's
Yeah.
So I guess. What is it's not the Iron Man committee anymore, it's been renamed.
Events committee.
So I would say your job was easier, but it was in theory because of the significant lower number of participants. Does this events committee still have the metrics and the objective that they had
Yeah.
annually?
Yes,
And they're going to still conduct business and to evaluate it
Yes.
to minimize the friction?
oh, yeah,
Cause I say that now because it's ramping back up to pre-COVID levels of race participants, which was like the apex of the friction between Ironman and the community.
yeah.
So the event committee is
And-
It's just
actually,
renamed, it's just renamed.
And, but the participants, there's a cutoff, and it's a reduced number.
And
there's been conversation, there's only 2,500.
that's
That's going to be on course,
in the water.
but they have registered a fair number larger than that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, but if
which I understand, but it's one of those.
if you look at the numbers that they've actually registered and actually gone in even in the last few years, okay? Then I disagree with Audra in the fact of the percentage. I think they could actually register more
Cause
and
there's that
keep
many,
it at 2,500.
cause that many drop out.
And then you drop out.
More than 10%.
But because of what she's saying, that, I mean, by what Audra said, okay? If you do the math, it's actually, it's a higher percentage than it actually is, so they could go, I don't know, I'm picking a number, 3,000, 3,100,
As
they
long
can
as
register.
25
As long as it's 2,500, and Rick knows that, but, and a lot of those are community spots
Sure.
that they continue to yet.
I guess I'm on the same page with you, it was like 25 to 2,500, 2,500.
That's it, that's fine.
My concern is to ensure that the committee that is been tasked to evaluate its effectiveness and to minimize the friction that happened with the community.
Oh, yeah.
Let me address that. Maximum number, I won't read it, but there needs to be a decision made, a mutually agreed upon by both parties. For each, like for this year. I say the committee gets together, the events committee, together with input from the village and the town and says, how was it this year? And then next year's number will be determined.
Right,
So that, did they take out the within the 7 days, or is that?
I wanted that back in and they said, trust us, we need it within 7 days. Because the race is
So
set up.
so that's normally not what you want to hear from Iron
Well,
Man.
because so many people.
That
make their
wasn't-
decision.
100, yeah, the next day they sell out, I understand that. I guess I just wanna circle back to because the leading up to it, and I know that. There were tangible improvements in the race and the communication between the race and the community. But it was easier because of the reduced number because of the pandemic.
Exactly.
But
Right.
I want to ensure that it's
Yeah.
still in place
Because
and
we
it's
don't-
proactive.
We don't know if the number of participants is a true number.
Yeah.
Because each participant comes with 4.2 people.
right.
Well, last year, each participant came with 2.8 people.
Exactly.
What will it be this year?
Right.
Because it's not, as was pointed out, our roads can handle 10,000 participants. It's the crowds that come with them that's harder to maintain,
And I
so.
think we get away with, the community may be forgiving because it's the 25th anniversary. However, year 2 and 3 in the contract, it'd be like, okay, we're
What are we
back, we're,
returning?
here we go, we're going back for this.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I would like to.
But I will say that, I mean, as far as that race day, handling the crowds. The crowds at the beginning, let's say the first 10 or 15 years, were huge.
Right,
Every, you head towards ski jumps and it's,
like the car commercials.
that's right. Huge. So, and that was, you couldn't tell, it was constant all the way to ski jumps. Now it's, bottom of Mill Hill,
Right,
now then it's, I remember like where the roadhouse is and all that was all full. Now there's nobody there. It's around the showgrounds and like that.
We might return, but also then like how Greg was kind of, I wouldn't say spitballing, but. The way he was communicating, the way the race has changed between the biking and the running and how it's going to impact. That's the committee that is going to enforce that the communication happens and that the residents that are going to be impacted get peppered with communication.
Yeah, that's one thing we.
These are the sort of like the things
Yeah.
that,
those are the tripping points.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
that's what I'm concerned.
And I think, obviously, if they register more people, more participants, that's more of a pool for the foundation, whatever their math is.
Yeah.
Whatever the algorithm or formula is, so that's more people. We just have to focus on the 2,500. And whatever that number is, if they, like I said, I think they could go up, and if they go up and register, that's more money in their pocket. And whatever the percentage is to the foundation, and there's the money.
So I hear there's two things. One is the dollar figure for the foundation to give. But also what Rick was saying is that within that 7 days, we have a very small window for that committee and to the boards to communicate areas of friction that need to be addressed for the following. And then our impact.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And as an example, in the past, and I'm gonna come up with, this is an approximate number.
48%.
It's, I can't, yeah, I'm saying it right up front, I'm going backwards. Which we'll discuss coming to play later, but one local recipient of funds in the past would get $2,000 or $3,000. Last year they got $500. So that's just one example that I'm aware of, they just went. Shh.
I think if you look at my spreadsheet though, I don't think there was anyone that got $500.
No, this was not the volunteers,
Oh, okay.
this was that,
The applications.
that was the 10,000 or whatever. That was the money put back in the community by the foundation.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying, 10K to me is extremely low. Whereas in the past, 40, 35, whatever.
Yeah.
And even, in the previous owner, well, two previous owners, it was considerable, even 20 years ago.
So So if we reduce it down, so Sydney, the events committee is very critical to ensure that this race in the community communicate and there's the least amount of friction involved.
Dicks and chairs.
So, Just, you don't have to write it down, just don't get in, so that when the story happens, you know what all.
The bigger question that I asked and I just got laughed at was, what happens if 2,800 show up? How are you gonna pick your 300 to pluck out of the water?
That's Ironman's.
Well, and part of that is the community. Recipient, I mean, the ones that they charge $150 extra for, or whatever it is, I don't know what the.
Well, that's a good question to ask, so that will.
Well, the thing is, they,
$750 now.
okay, the thing is, okay, $750, and they're continuing to sell those.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the thing, they have some control over that. There's not, those aren't a huge amount of spots, but, you know, maybe they should stop selling those.
So I can assume by our conversation, you're ready to.
Yeah.
Say okay to the Ironman contract?
Yeah.
I'll take a motion.
I make a motion, we accept the Ironman contract as presented to us.
Second,
Second.
Rick, any further discussion?
Just for the record, Dick is very,
There it
very
is.
integral in ensuring that this events committee
I think
ensures.
we all are.
Well, he's the point person,
Right.
most responsible
We need to be out there.
Don't call me responsible, please.
to ensure this race goes off well.
All right. With that being said, all in favor?
Alright.
Aye. No one's opposed, that's carried. Thank you. Next item, mostly I'm doing this for Kathy. Kathy, you're being very patient with us tonight. But under this fund balance, I wanted to clarify two items that I expect the bills to be paid from our Park District fund balance. One is our paving patchwork that's gonna be done at the showgrounds.
The $33,000,
That's right.
okay,
And the second one is the materials of Ones and Dust for the tent pads. 21,000 something, I think that was.
yes.
In any respect, those two items directly apply to a fund balance from Park District. And you know, what we've been talking about is utilization of up to $265,000. We realize we've got a couple roofs down there that need it. We won't be able to get to those this year, so that will probably be prolonged. But I'm sure there are gonna be other Park District related upgrades we're gonna need by the end of the year. And one of them I surmise is gonna be this. It will be the total paving of the whole loop. And I'm currently working in conjunction with Order right now. To utilize their labor in return for us buying materials. It would be a great partnership, which ensures they're using that area for ski jumping events and parking. Anyway, I'm working with Ashley and then over the next week on putting that together. So that really was just for Kathy, so she understands we're in agreement to the use of those funds. Unless there's any of you that need to discuss it further. Okay,
Can I
Next.
ask a question before you move on?
sure, go ahead.
The other Stanton bid for the 11,250, which was for the main entrance, is that one on hold?
That's on hold right now because the urgency is really to get the repairs done before Horse Show comes.
Okay,
Now, if he had time to do it, I suppose I can also put that in front of you. What we have is about a 4-inch lip, you know, it jars you turning into there.
Yep.
All that would get cut out and redone. It's been a problem for a while, and if you are so inclined to okay with it, I would leave that bid with Joel as well to get it done. I just don't know if he has time now. He kind of kicked everybody down the list to help us out to be done before Horse Show.
I'd say if he has time,
Yeah,
add it on,
okay,
but if he doesn't, then we should look at
yeah,
other sources.
all right,
I
good.
agree.
I'll relay that.
That'll put a little pressure on him.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I did have a conversation with somebody from another paving company, very broad,
yeah,
no specifics. And it seemed to me that they could find room in their schedule for this year.
Yeah,
Okay, so.
and you see, my reason in kind of holding off on that is because it would tie in with this partnership with Orta.
Yeah,
So if I could get 50% of it paid
That's-
for, I'd wait.
yeah,
Okay.
Okay,
Can we switch 7 and 8?
And excuse my typo.
Aren't they both the same?
I'm just saying. I just wanted to have the most productive conversation.
Soda John's is easy.
yeah,
Well, no, maybe.
We'll go with two.
I don't know.
all right, so we're gonna stick with number 7.
Okay.
Yeah,
As
We'll talk
listed.
about shit.
yeah,
It's
so.
also listed as number 2.
So as you all recall from our first go around with this, is that, no, is it Ausable?
River, so.
Ausable River Association. Used to take care of 5 porta johns, at least 2 in Wilmington, maybe 3. Okay, 3 in Wilmington, 3 in North Elba. They don't have the funding to carry it through. So we've been approached to keep that same service. In my personal opinion, I look at it as a public service. These are all out of town areas within our town, but they are heavily used areas that without a porta john in there until Labor Day, we're gonna be faced with a mess in the woods that we really don't wanna have to clean up.
And this is River
After the
Road,
fact.
River Road,
Copperas,
Topper is the railhead, the distant one,
very busy.
And Monument.
and the mines.
yeah, and you all received, and I have it right here for everybody. so you can read
No, I
it.
think found
Agree.
it. I realized I never looked at it, so I'm looking
Yeah.
at it right now.
Yeah, the three, and that's the
And
three.
this is a quote from Boyers at the same price as last year.
Okay.
And it boils down to $960 per unit, billed every month. So we would have. When did they put them out?
By
Memorial Day,
I've been working.
so June, July, August.
And it goes through Columbus Day.
Columbus.
Yeah,
It goes through Columbus Day,
okay,
Yeah.
so 4 months,
How often do they clean it?
weekly.
Okay.
but basically it's $12,000.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If there's like a phone call.
No, it's not 12,000.
No, it's not.
No,
I was like,
3,000.
that sounds way too big.
3,000.
Yeah,
it's
3
almost-
units, not 4.
Nice.
Well, no,
60
yeah,
times
yeah.
4.
And it's for that 960 is for the entire season.
Yeah, that's all that, just broken down into X number of payments, as it says, on a 28-day cycle.
It's not
4 months.
monthly, isn't that an annual fee, the 960?
No, it's 960 billed on a 28-day cycle, putting them out before,
So 960 per month,
No.
no, 960 per
unit.
season.
annual, right?
Yeah.
Season.
Yeah.
So it's 960 times 3.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Or,
Or 2, whatever, I didn't,
I don't,
I covered 2 too.
the monument one, I think they can pee in their waders. Don't quote me on that.
No.
No,
I'm all for that.
President says they can pee in their waders.
Listen,
yeah.
48%.
if you're not behind me,
So.
if you're not behind me with like staff wearing coats during the winter time and saving on the brakes, we're gonna put porta potties on.
Yes,
No, like I said, minimum 2. The third one is whatever you guys think.
Well, I think the top one is,
Oh, that's,
That's-
yeah, that's, and so is the River Road.
yeah,
okay, let's do those 2.
And then monitor the monument, how we monitor that, I don't
So you can volunteer Jason.
Well, I do. So if I see toilet paper in the woods or
Yeah,
abnormally wet conditions,
so if they get like. They're pretty good, like if it, like, let's say it's a busy week, they could go out twice a week, or like if it's kind of crazy, or you feel like you've never experienced that in the compost ones.
No, it's once a week, it's tough, because you're going on off cycle.
Okay.
these are hikers, they can hold their breath.
Wait, but Dick, I have also
Different areas.
another, it's not directly related to you, I guess it's related to communication with Boyer separate to septic, so I didn't mean to say your name. There was some talk that like if when they were doing it in conjunction with state money or on state land, that they had to not pick up the trash that was in the porta potty, so I hope this changes that situation and they also pick up the trash that's in the porta potty.
That's, the problem is, in the past, they agreed to do it for the River Association. But talking to Jeremy, they're not permitted to pick up trash.
I'm saying, I'm not, like, so, like, to me, that's absurd.
Oh, yeah,
They're
we do.
taking out trash and putting it on the ground.
Yep.
And then just letting it go into the river.
What do
Like,
we
can
call
I
it,
just
the
pay
DEC?
Jeremy to put it in a little bag and then take it to the dump?
Well, I'm just saying the DEC goes out and
Yeah,
takes
they-
care of all
Yeah.
the grass. Why doesn't the DEC like, you're an important person now. You can't make a phone call to someone at the DEC.
I'm an important trash person.
Oh, I just know, it's just an important person. I don't know. All kinds of weird dogs.
I suppose I could call Joe Zaluski and find out how DEC monitors those areas.
Because there's no,
Cause I hate to lead it with like this, what Emily's saying, it's like,
Yeah, no,
where
from
exactly
what-
are the
from what?
state?
Let me ask you this. Is there a receptacle left with those?
no,
So that's the problem.
it's what, and it's the same thing on 73 going down too. There's no receptacles with any of those.
So
And so I believe,
Carry out.
would one of our blue barrels and a big liner put in it, and we ask Park District once a week to go down?
I think you might be asking for